Posted by you/revolutionary_alien. AITA for telling my friend to stop using her disability as an excuse? The title sounds terrible, but please hear me out. I, F32, have been friends with J, F36, since we were in high school, and she has always been chronically late. Starting once we were in university, J would arrive up to an hour after the agreed start time and nothing anyone would say could change that. Ultimately, our friend group started giving her an earlier start time, which seemed to solve the problem until she found out that we were manipulating and lying to her. Since then, we tell her the correct time and just start without her. Unfortunately, Jay had a terrible car accident a few years ago and was left completely paralyzed from the waist down. After the accident, our friend group would mostly organize to hang out at Jay's house to try and make it easier for her, but then in-person hangouts stopped when everything shut down. Since we have been allowed to go back out, our friend group has gone back to doing things outside the house and Jay's time management is worse than ever. Our most recent group activity was to go see a movie at a set time, and Jay only arrived half an hour after the movie ended. She was also quite upset at us that we had not waited for a later showing so we could see it with her. Whenever anyone gets frustrated that Jay is late, she will tell them to be more accommodating since she now has to also manage a disability. Please keep in mind in the comments that those are her words. I recently organized for Jay and I to meet up for a cup of coffee, just the two of us. After I had waited 4 hours, I had to leave to go collect my children from school. I phoned her from the car and was quite upset that she had disrespected my time like that, especially since she had texted me an hour after the meetup time telling me that she was on her way. I told her that if she had no intention of coming, she should have told me that from the start rather than telling me that she was en route. After my phone call with Jay, another friend reached out and said that Jay had actually had an emergency, which is why she never made it to coffee. Jay did not tell me this herself but is now questioning our friendship due to my lack of sensitivity. It is terrible news that Jay had an emergency, but this was not the first time she has been incredibly late, and her tardiness has become much worse now that she also needs to manage her disability as well. Ultimately, in a fit of frustration, I told Jay that she needs to get over herself and stop using her disability, as terrible as the accident was, as an excuse for something she has always done. I probably should not have been so rude when I told her that, but she is now no longer talking to me, and I feel awful. Now on to some comments before the update. Posted by 9throwawayangst. NTA. She's always been like this, even pre-disability. She's not 18 anymore. People have real adult lives and responsibilities and can't bend them to accommodate her. Posted by OrangeCubit. NTA, if there truly was an emergency it happened after she texted you when she was already an hour late. Moist Opportunity 64 responded with, great point. Posted by JSibashBash. NTA. She's an adult, it's up to her to manage her time. However, at long it takes her to get ready is the time she needs to take and show up on time. You spoke to her based on the facts and the history of the relationship. She very often shows up late and then tries to make you guys out as villains for not stopping everything until she arrives. Her immediately getting in contact with someone else and telling a story that she had an emergency so that that person would shame you, makes me think there was no emergency, she just wanted a flying monkey to go after you. Honestly, look at the history of the relationship. She is someone who regularly disrespects you, and she has no plans on changing. In fact, she keeps doubling down. Why do you even still hang out with her? Adult friendship time is very precious. Why are you wasting energy on someone who doesn't treat you right? Posted by GizmoRipley87. NTA 4 hours late and she couldn't even tell you she wasn't going to make it? I mean, she doesn't have to disclose what the emergency was, but she could have at least let you know she's not coming so you wouldn't be waiting. Look, I'm physically disabled as well and I am a wheelchair user, but I am always either on time or upfront about not being able to go in a timely manner. I had a close friend who was wheelchair bound and he never pulled this on anyone either. It comes down to a lack of respect and no consideration for others. Nurmidna responded with, add in that she texted an hour after she was supposed to be there to say she'd be there. Then just left her until Op got mad 3 hours later and left. Jay has a serious gives no F's about anyone but myself problem. That's her disability and has been since birth. Op is better off not being friends with someone who's this bad at being a friend themselves. Seriously? You couldn't have waited for a later showing instead of going to the movie at the time we all planned to go because I didn't show up until after the movie was over? You guys suck. How is this person an adult? Kiwi Kid responded with, I don't understand how some people can't think/bother to tell someone if something happens and they can't make it. Maybe it's just me, but when I got hit by a car and was in the hospital, first thing I did after calling my mom was rang my work to let them know and my hairdresser, as I had an appointment that morning and didn't want her waiting around for me. Posted by Stormfeathery. If she was less bad, I'd say why Tia, even with your frustration, since it seemed like a harsh thing to say, but it sounds like she's more than brought it on herself. Since I don't know the details of the emergency, I won't say whether she's an off for not letting you even know and having you sit there for 4 hours, although it's telling that you thought it in line with what you've experienced before, that she was 4 freaking hours late just because of Jay being Jay. But not even showing up until after the movie is over with? And expecting you to have just waited for her? If it was just cluelessness and she missed out on crap and totally didn't hold it against you, it would be a bit different, annoying but not quite as a whole. But she's severely inconveniencing people and doesn't care about it and expects them to be more inconvenienced than they are, or else she gets pissy. It's also obviously not all because of her disability, since she's always done this. Honestly, you might have saved yourself having to snap if your friend group had done something from the start. Stop waiting for her for anything. Let her know you're not going to wait for her anymore. Just go on with what you're planning and expect that she might not be there. If she can join you belatedly, fine. If it's something she would have to be there from the start, tough. Maybe after a bit of this, she'll get her act together and actually show up on time. Assuming the friend group is still doing stuff together while you two are on the outs. Edited to add, NTA, since I forgot to actually put the judgment, and if it wasn't obvious. Posted by peaceful_orchid. NTA. I have a disability that makes me change plans a lot. It's not predictable and it's very frustrating for me. Never have I once not texted or called the person I was going to see. Even when I had a tube put in my nose into my stomach, very painful, I sent a text to my friend who I was going to meet the next day saying sorry I had to go to the ER. I'm hospitalized for the next few days. KP Keg responded with, NTA. Was in a wheelchair for several years after a very bad accident. Never once was this a reason why I was late for something. To be clear, getting around in a wheelchair is a definite hassle, and can eat up more time than being fully abled. But ultimately, you learn to plan your schedule. As an example, the work facility I was at didn't have a handicap accessible entrance from the back side. So, I learned that if I needed to get to that side, I could either go all the way around the facility. Or I could go up approximately 10 stairs on my butt, pulling my wheelchair with me. Although frankly, I don't think I ever drug my wheelchair the whole way, there was always somebody else going up or down the stairs who chivalrously asked if they could get my chair to the top. So, I either planned the time to go all the way around the facility, or I did the stairs on my butt. The other thing that happens is that the handicapped parking at a lot of facilities isn't necessarily as convenient as the regular parking. It's accessible, which is not necessarily quick or easy. For instance, it might be the longest route you could take, but of course it's all wheelchair friendly. The other thing that is infuriating is that it might not be very well lit, so at night it's sometimes sketchy. This happens a lot with older facilities that were built well before handicap legislation. So, they have to make do with what they have, which I appreciate, but at the same time it is certainly humbling. Another thing that sometimes happens is that the stupid door by the handicapped entrance, since it's not the popular doors, it is sometimes locked, and you end up rattling the door like a crazy person and calling the facility to say please let me in this building. I have gotten tickets and meals comp for this, and let me tell you, I would have rather paid. Now on to the update. After reading everyone's comments, I decided to give Jay a call to try and bury the hatchet. She is a very old friend after all, and I never intended on hurting her feelings. I also thought it would be a good opportunity for me to explain why I snapped. When Jay answered the phone, she initially apologized for not showing up but said that it is to be expected since she is now in a wheelchair. I told her that I was very sorry for making an off-the-cuff remark about her disability, but my issue is that she has been tardy for years, but I feel like it is the worst it has ever been. I said that I feel like my time is disrespected and that I have other things to do rather than sitting in a coffee shop waiting for someone who said that they are coming but never shows up. It was then that Jay told me about her emergency. She noticed as she was leaving the house that she only had a couple of days' worth of cat food, rather than a week's worth, which is what she likes to have on hand. Rather than going to the coffee shop, she went to the pet store, and it was there she had run into another friend, the same friend who told me about the emergency. They ended up having coffee together down the road from where I was waiting. To say I was hurt is an understatement. I told Jay that not having a week's worth of cat food is not an emergency, and she was incredibly rude to go to coffee with someone else when she knew I was waiting for her. She said that she meant to text me, but it had slipped her mind. When I asked why she did not just bring the other friend to the coffee shop I was waiting in, She said that it was easier to stay where they were because it is exhausting to move in her wheelchair from place to place. For now, I am taking a break from Jay. I am so frustrated that she does not understand why I am upset, and I feel like she has very little regard for me or my time. Now on to the last story. AITA for highlighting that my wife sabotages her daughters? They are 11 and 13. I've noticed her telling them the wrong information at times or missing out crucial information from instructions, and I believe it is to make them fail. I've noticed this pattern and begun to watch. For example, they have afro hair, and she insists on brushing out all of their knots when their hair is dry, before they get in the shower. They sit silently but they have pain across their faces as she tugs at their knots. I mentioned this at work and one of my colleagues said her daughters should brush their hair when it's wet with conditioner on as the knots will slide out. I noticed that my wife does this to her hair, but still insists her daughters sit and get their hair brushed out. One of her daughters wanted to bake a cake, and my wife laughed to me afterwards as she said she missed out a crucial step in the recipe and her daughter was upset when she failed. It really bothered me as it seemed to give my wife a sense of satisfaction to leave her daughter to struggle and watch her fail. One of her daughters didn't like one of my wife's that she had cooked. She's insisted the whole family follow her strict diet, and my wife then punished her silently by ordering her many ready meals and putting her on a ready meal diet for the next month, without any explanation. I gently approached my wife with this, and she is now giving me the silent treatment. AITA? Now on to some comments. Posted by Cheerily Terrified. This isn't sabotage, this is abuse. Edited to add, YTA wife is too, but still. I put YTA because he labels it sabotage when it's clearly a woman taking pleasure in her kids' suffering, and in his comment, he said she finds it funny when people get hurt, yet he gently approaches wife. She's also in a hole obviously, and it could be ESH but his attitude was so passive in the face of children suffering. Spider Girl responded with, the physical pain of doing their hair like that is abusive. This makes me feel sick. She wouldn't do her own hair this way. What the heck is wrong with this lady? Kinda the because you definitely need to do more than gently talk to her about it. You are the cosigner here, watching without action. Bastarditis responded with, the hair thing freaked me up. My little sister is really tender-headed to the point where she would cry, when she was toddler and we still helped with her hair, when we tried to get her knots out. I would do anything, conditioner, anti-tangle, finger brushing, no matter how expensive or how long it took to prevent her as much as possible from feeling discomfort. This is my sister. How a parent could purposely cause this, and seemingly enjoy it, is beyond me. That's freaking gross. NTA but I hope this is just ignorance to an extreme? Wife is please advocate for your babies. Mildly Horrifying responded with, she probably does it because if someone calls her out on it, she can just say you think I'm abusive for brushing my daughter's hair? Not to mention that a lot of white people wouldn't think anything of brushing dry hair without detangler, so a good portion of people aren't even going to know to say something. Herps15 responded with, exactly. As a white person, it's totally normal to brush your hair when dry just as it is, but my ex had afro hair and he would only brush when wet with conditioner in because it just would not be happening if he tried it dry. Any person with afro hair or who knows anything about it would surely know she's being a dick here. NTA.